So if I get some clear tracks, I'll see if I can stop and show you. And it looks like possibly African Civet was having a look around last night. I had a few of those tracks a little bit further back on the quarantine area. And that's an animal you don't get to see very often. Also highly nocturnal. And it almost looks like a raccoon. Black face, black and white rings around the tail, and black and white stripes down the back end of the body, and black spots on the front end of the body. And probably about a raccoon size actually. But it doesn't tend to, I know raccoons tend to stand on the back legs and use the front legs quite a lot to manipulate things, but the African Civet doesn't do that as much. It tends to walk more like a cat or a dog. And it looks like possibly the white-tailed mongoose was out last night. Just reading the bush newspaper. Oh, elephants. Elephants went down this way as well. But if we do have any new viewers on board, welcome. And if you would like to ask any questions while we're driving around this morning here in South Africa, then please send your questions to questions@wildearth.tv, and you can also use the Twitter as well to answer any questions that I might throw at you guys. Maybe we'll have a whodunit if I find some interesting dung for you to have a look at today. But the account is #SafariLive. So send your emails or questions through those two channels. And it's great to have you on board with us this morning, even though the mist is descending a little bit. I'll say, hopefully it will lift. But, let's say, this is actually perfect weather because it's still fairly cool, it's overcast, and sometimes those nocturnal animals can be out and about. Which would be fantastic to see.
Lucky.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's one thing I love about spotted hyena, they're so inquisitive. Now, some of you might be thinking, you thought you heard me say we're going to a spotted hyena den, and this one doesn't have any spots. It's because it's so young. They only start to get the spots around 4 months old. So we know this is definitely under 4 months old, and at a guess I'd probably say maybe about a month and a half, maybe 2 months by the size of it. It's very small. It's very normal for them to have a den, and a female will have her pups here, and she'll come back after a night's foraging and feed them. They actually suckle for quite a long time, usually about a year and a half, up to a year and a half before they're fully weaned. But they don't tend to bring food back, although once or twice we have seen it on WildEarth, but they're not supposed to bring food back for the pups. If I move forward a little bit more, you might get a nicer shot. I don't want to go around the other side and scare it. But if I just move forward slightly, we might actually be able to go around. As soon as she's here, baby might feel a little bit more comfortable. I'm just going to see if we can get a view of Mum. But I don't want to disturb her, so I'll just keep a check on how she is, but to see if I can try and get a view of her for you. I know it used to be a lot more open than trying to go in here and disturb her. Unfortunately, spotted hyena have this bad reputation of stealing everyone's food. And yes, they do that, but they're actually very good predators in their own right. And quite often, and when film crews have come along, it's actually the hyenas trying to steal their food back. And that's probably where they got the wrong impression of the fact that hyenas scavenge a lot more than they predate. But now you can see those spots on the adult quite clearly. It would be wonderful to see that little baby coming out again. And for those of you who might just be joining us, you're here live in South Africa. We spotted hyenas at a communal den by the looks of it. And we've just seen a very young baby hyena. And it was, I would say probably about, oh, there it is again. Right on cue. Probably about a month old. It is very small, but very inquisitive. And I think that's what makes hyenas so successful, because they do have this curiosity. Actually, that one coming in looks like it could have been a youngster from a few years ago. One thing I have noticed about hyenas, they tend to get paler and the hair much shorter as they get older. You can see that one's quite fluffy, the one that's following the little baby now. Good morning, all stations. The Mbezi Kaya just off of Philemon's cut line is active. Affirmative, the Mbezi Kaya on Philemon's cut line is active. The Mbezi. I think the guys aren't used to my accent again. It's taken them a little while to understand what I'm saying. Now, if the adults aren't here, that hole that we saw the baby come out of will be its little retreat. And quite often, they would have dug a little scrape right at the back so that only the babies can get there. So if there's any danger, the babies will actually retreat right into the back of that hole so that any big animal can't get at them. And you can see it just keeps returning every so often. That's its safety net. And that hole would have originally been made by maybe an aardvark going for that, because it's actually an old termite mound. So the aardvark would have made the hole trying to get to a meal of termites, and then over the years it would have been excavated, maybe by warthog. They might have just opened it up a little bit wider, and then by the hyenas. Welcome from New Jersey. And Gail was wanting to know how many pups they might have. And typically it's usually around 2, although I have read they could have up to 3. Now, as I was saying as we're approaching, oh, hello, what's going on? You see the mother's got her ears picked up. She's stretching to see what's happening. She might have just caught the scent of something. Nope. But it pays to be on the lookout. And a pup that size is vulnerable to anything. And that's very true for any carnivore. They're small, they can be vulnerable to eagles, they can be vulnerable to snakes. The rules of the bush, if you're bigger, then you get to eat more. If you're smaller, you could become someone's meal. So stay safe, little one. But as I was saying earlier, the spotted hyena can be very aggressive, and even at that age, you might even get siblicide, so the baby's actually killing each other. And it tends to happen if it's 2 females. The rivalry is so strong. The more dominant female might end up killing the other female, even if it's just by stopping them getting to the teat to get milk. Now, if it's a male and female, there doesn't seem to be as much rivalry because the male is quite submissive. And if it's 2 males, it's the same sort of thing, they're very submissive. So it doesn't seem to be that rivalry, but if there's the 2 females, very strong. And I wonder if this one isn't a little female, because it looks like it could be just the one. We haven't seen a second pup yet. But now looking at the size, yeah, I really don't think it's older than a month. Being so inquisitive, that also backs up my theory that it might be a female as well.